short, bald, and big-boned. Try and contain yourself, ladies. Well, I'm here tonight because I got drunk. I met Louise and I signed up for this because it seemed like a good idea at the time. I'm having that one on my gravestone. So I'm going through a divorce at the moment and it's pretty hard going, and I'm really glad I've got some hobbies to take my mind off things. You know, if it wasn't for my collection of severed heads, I'd go completely insane. The ex told me recently that she'd been on a mindfulness course. Mindfulness? I think an exorcism would have been better. But it wasn't all bad. For one thing, it produced 2 co-writers, which brings me to the subject of toddlers and toddlers and time. Now, Einstein told us that the faster we move, the slower time travels. What's lesser known is that the presence of toddlers also affects the passage of time. Any of you spent a rainy afternoon trying to entertain a toddler? Tick. 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 An afternoon becomes an age. An afternoon of toddler time is equivalent to about 5 years in the real world. There's a reason that people who have children look older than people that don't have children. That's because they are. A woman of 40 with 4 children, she's about 300 years old in toddler time. Which neatly brings me to the subject of hell. So you might have thought hell was demons, giant toasting forks, pits of despair, and all that sort of stuff. Actually, hell is a long-haul flight with a toddler for all eternity. They don't sit still. They want to be up and down the aisle, and you're following them up and down. And you're looking at all the people there, drinking their gin and tonics, watching the movie, nibbling their nuts, and you're going, bastards, bastards, I hate you. 13 hours? It felt like 100 years. When we got there, I expected Buck Rogers' spaceship to be parked next to our plane. Anyway, talking of Buck Rogers, I loved sci-fi. I was a nerdy kid, you know, so I liked sci-fi on telly and sci-fi at the films. And we know that space travel is dangerous, but apparently it's not dangerous enough for Hollywood. So, have any of you seen the film Gravity? Yes. Yay! Okay. Right, that film is ridiculous. It is completely ridiculous. There's so much artificially contrived peril in it, it's not true. And it was praised for being accurate or realistic. Unbelievable. Anyway, it's got Sandra Bullock in it. And some bloke, George something or other. Never heard of him. Anyway, Sandra's in her space shuttle, and, suddenly it gets destroyed, all the crew gets killed, and she's floating there in space, going, oh shit. And anyway, she manages to escape in an incredibly improbable fashion to a nearby space station, as you do. She gets there, she gets on board, she hasn't even got time for a toilet stop before it suddenly bursts into flames, and she's off again. It's just like completely crackers, one thing after the other, else it's all this artificially contrived peril. Anyway, can you imagine if real life was like this? Real life, the movie, oven chips. Picture the scene, you're in your kitchen, you go to get the oven chips. You don't notice that the frozen peas have fallen on the floor. You slip on them, you bang your head on the hob, gas starts flooding out into the kitchen, you're staggering down the corridor, blood pouring from a massive head wound. Halfway to the bathroom, the gas ignites, and the house explodes! You're thrown out onto the lawn, and bits of your house and all your belongings are crashing down all around you, about an inch from your head, and nothing hits you, of course, and you pass out. When you come to, there's 2 paramedics, and they looked like Sandra and George. Of course, in real life, you just get a few cuts and bruises and a bit shouted at for being an idiot. Anyway, space travel's dangerous, but earthly travel can be pretty dangerous too, especially the sort of travel called the Greyhound bus. So I went travelling in the States quite a long time ago, and I wanted a cheap travel option, and the cheapest option available was hitchhiking. But I didn't really fancy being murdered and buried in a field in Texas. So the next cheapest option, which is a bit safer but not much, is the Greyhound bus. Okay, so 1,200 miles in a narrow seat. Not a good way for an enormously fat person to travel, is it? Wrong. It's a great way for an enormously fat person to travel. It's just a really bad way for a very thin person sitting next to them to travel. So sitting on the bus, and it stops, and this guy gets on, and he's huge. He's not just huge, he's humongous. He was so fat he could have had his own moons. I looked in front, no spare seats. I looked behind, no spare seats. 50-seater bus, one spare seat. Guess where it is? Next to little old me. He waddles up the aisle. Poof! He's down. And I'm laminated against the wall of the bus. Sorry, boy. I used to be 400 pounds, but my circulatory system shut down. And I was in hospital on a drip. And I lost 100 pounds. So now I'm only 300 pounds. Oh, yeah, great. Thanks for telling me that. Anyway, 5 hours later, he finally got off. And I peeled myself off the side of the bus. I thought, oh, well, at least that's the worst of it over. Later that evening, though, I was trying to get some sleep, and I smelt smoke. Now, smoking is one of the long list of things that you cannot do on a Greyhound bus. The States is a funny old place. The land of the free, allegedly, but they seem to have a million stupid rules and regulations. Land of the highly regulated, more like. Anyway, the driver smelt the smoke. Who's smoking? I said, who's smoking? Who's smoking? Fuck you, man! From the back seat, while he was on the back seat. I said, put that cigarette out! Fuck you, man! I'm telling you, boy, put that cigarette out. The driver of a Greyhound bus, he is like the captain of a ship. He is God. Now I'm telling you, put that cigarette out. Fuck you, man! Fuck you, man! So I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, this is America. The guns are going to be out in a second. Bullets will be flying, and I can see the newspaper headlines back in Britain. The Salt Lake City Greyhound Massacre. British victim. And I'm thinking, goodbye, Mum, goodbye. Remember me? And I passed out with terror. When I came to, there was 2 paramedics tending to me, and they looked like Sandra and George. Oh, wait a minute, wasn't that a film I saw? Anyway, apart from travel, I also love walking. I love strolling across the downs, and as I do, I just love chatting. And the conversations are amazing. They're always lengthy, inconsequential, and confused. I can't help it, I just like rambling. Nobody's thrown anything, so thank you. Before I came out, I did a quick calculation in my head, because I'm like that. 8 people at £5 each is 62.5p each. So I hope that I've delivered 62.5 pence worth of comedy for you. Good night.